Hey, Fred. Congrats on the engagement.
Thank you.
Wanted to ask you about the trade deadline. Last year, going into it, there was obviously uncertainty with Kyle's name out there and Norm's name out there. This year, it does seem like if anything's going to be done, it's going to be an addition rather than a subtraction to the core group that you guys have. Is the feeling any different? Like, is there a little bit more of a sense of calmness than there was a year ago?
I mean, just where the season is. I think the way the season started in December last year and just being displaced and everything, I think, it's just a different feel. Going into the deadline, playing well and understanding, the expectations and where things are, I think just feels a little bit better. But again, I'm not a trade guy, so this is part of the year. It's like the same for me every year. It is what it is, and got to be a professional, show up to go to work. And if, your name is called or you read about it, hear about it, you just waiting to something that's final. So for me, I never really put too much stock into it.
With the way that you guys are playing recently and with the Eastern Conference being what it is, as wide open as it appears to be, does it feel like this could be an opportune time to make an addition or two?
I mean, again, I'm not a trade guy. I don't pretend to act like I know what's the best route to building a team or, I think that we have a solid core. And obviously, if we're talking about building a championship caliber team, I think we definitely need some additions, but that can come in a lot of different ways. My favorite addition is just the guys that we got to get better. That's how I always approach it as a young player. And I know that young core group that we had, myself, Pascal, Norman, and those guys, we always felt like if we could make jumps at those positions, we wouldn't have to make moves. So without, speaking for management or whoever, that's kind of like as a player, that's where I think the focus should be, is just trying to individually get better and make jumps.
Thanks, Fred. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you.
And next we'll go to Doug.
Hey, Fred, how are you? My congratulations as well. It's a hell of a move, young fella.
Thank you.
The last week, Nick was talking about getting this team ready to play playoff basketball. Physical, fighting through contact, no calls, rough game. Do you think it's further along than normal for a group at this point of the season?
Yes and no. I think, again, we haven't had that experience together.
Right.
We have some experienced guys that have played in the playoffs a little bit. We got some guys that haven't played at all. And, it's just a mixture of the two. I think one thing I can say, which is a plus of playing all the minutes, is that we have a lot of time together. We have a lot of floor time together, even with all the injuries that we've had with guys out at different spots. Like our core 5, 6, 7 have played a lot of minutes together. So you could feel the growth and just the way that certain things are coming together and learning, and just communication and certain sets and reads and different things that we don't have to think about as much anymore. And it's kind of understood. We can go through a walkthrough and apply it to the court. And those are the things you got to be able to do in the playoffs, is be able to adjust on the fly. And I think that's something that we've been learning how to do as a group.
I think last week you talked about this team has a reputation for being mean and playing physical and hitting people instead of being hit. How much does that help in going into the last months of the season and when the games get a little bit more important and a little bit more intense even?
Yeah, I think we're trying to sharpen our toolbox a little bit. And I think that helps a lot, because we've been in some really physical games, and a lot of the times we're dictating the physicality. And I know we foul a lot. I don't know where we rank in the league, but it feels like we're fouling a lot. Every team is complaining that we're fouling a lot. So, that's how the playoffs are. There's not much calls being made, and you got to be able to adapt and adjust. And again, I think just having a whole lot of different scenarios and different circumstances and adversity to go through as a team, I think it makes you better in the long run. And we've seen our share of it so far this year. We got to continue to keep building and growing through that.
That's great. Thanks very much, Fred. Safe trip.
Thank you.
And next we have Michael Grange.
Hey, Fred. Congratulations. Coming out of, this team is playing without like a traditional big, You've got Pascal is basically your 1A point guard to you recently. And is that kind of, if you want to call it an experiment, but is that process kind of working a little better than maybe you might have thought? Like, does it seem like, you're on a path that's pretty sustainable?
Yeah, again, I think it is working. Obviously, we're playing some pretty good basketball. I never really doubted the system or the format of how we were going to play, but you have to do it. You still got to go out there and do it every night. And there's definitely been highs and lows, and certain times it's worked, certain times it don't. But like, what are we gauging this off of? What's our grading scale? You know what I mean? If we're grading it off of how we've been so far, then we're doing pretty good. We got to continue to do it for the second half of the season, and then how we do in our world is we judge everything by who wins the championship. So if we go down and we don't win the championship, will you look back and say that it worked or it didn't work or whatever the case may be? It's such a copycat league that it's hard to grade, your own success. And I think just for me, looking at what we can control in our locker room and our franchise, I think that, we're in a good spot and we got a long, long way to go. But I think, there's some hope there and some things to be optimistic about.
Appreciate that, Fred.
Thanks.
Two more here for you, Fred. First, we'll go to Aaron Rose.
Hey, Fred. As everyone else has said, congrats on a big week.
Thank you.
When you guys made the move a few years ago and added Mark, Serge had to move to the bench, and you're making a big addition. How tough is that for a guy to come in midseason, gel with everyone, not disrupt the chemistry, and make things work? That'll pay dividends in the playoffs.
Yeah. I mean, in theory, it would be incredibly challenging. But the way he did it, it was so seamless and effortless. And he's such a high IQ player. And I think that just speaks volumes to Mark and what he brought to the table. And just his basketball prowess and his greatness. And, that's a guy who's going to be in the history books for a lot of different things. And adding a guy like that, I think it made it easy because he came in selfless. He came in as a passer and as an initiator and as a playmaker versus trying to fit, he kind of fit what he did to us, and Nurse, definitely put him right into the system in a great spot up there, kind of being a point guard at the top of the key. So he was huge for us. But again, I think that speaks volumes to him individually. I don't know if that's going to be the case for every single guy that gets traded midway through the season. But it worked. It definitely worked in, obviously, as we sit here today. But again, I would give Mark the credit for that.
It takes a special kind of high IQ guy who can pick up a playbook quickly and is selfless to be able to do those things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I would hope that it will work that well, every time. I'm not sure that it does, but again, I can only speak for that experience. And I just, remember his first day, it felt like he had already been on the team for years. There was really no adjustment period. He kind of knew what we did. There was a few things he had to get used to and play calls and sets and things like that. But he was an anchor defensively. He was vocal. He could communicate from day one, and he just came in. He made everybody's job easier. He made everybody's lives easier, offensively and defensively. So I think it was a much more of a cohesive fit right away. As he got up to speed, he kind of came in and sacrificed what people knew him as, which Mark was one of the hardest guys to guard on the block and stepping out to the three. And then he came to us and he kind of just became a playmaker at the top of the key and a defensive anchor.
Thanks, Fred.
Thanks.
And last one here for you, Fred. We have Vivek.
Hey, Fred, congrats, like everyone's saying. Were you more nervous about that or finding out if you'd be an all-star?
All-star for sure.
Serious question. Looking at the standings, I remember a while ago we had chatted and you said avoiding the play-in would be something important and getting into the top 6. Now, you guys are only a couple games out of home court advantage. How much of a priority is that?
Again, I think you just got to capitalize on the opportunity. That's one thing that we've been stressing and that I've been trying to stress to the young guys is in my 6 years, I can remember every year there's certain games that you wish you could get back at the end when you're looking at the wins and losses and the rankings and where you end up seating wise. And again, you just try to stress that, it's important to take care of business. And if, I don't imagine we're going to go undefeated the rest of the year. I hope so. But if there are games that we drop, it should be ones that you know, we can live with and not ones that we gave away. So I think that's the focal point, is just trying to get better every day and continue to grow and chase that greatness that we all aspire to have as a young team. As far as looking at the rankings every day, I don't really know. Like, the season is not over today, so I'm not sure how much it matters. But I think we're on a couple game win streak now, and you know, we're just looking to keep that going and play good basketball over long stretches of time, and you can live with where you end up.
When you look at the way you guys have closed out some of these tight games lately, how much do you think those games that you guys have maybe given away have helped in building better closing moments?
Yeah, it helps a ton. It helps a ton. I think you learn from some mistakes. You learn from some things you could have done differently. You learn from the successful moments that you have, and you try to keep building on that. Again, I think every single guy's had moments this year, big shots, big plays, big blocks, big steals. I think every guy that's played has had huge clutch moments. And again, as where we stand today as a team, I think that's really important to keep building that. And just adding more experience and more chemistry that we have late game. And we're pretty on a, you know, pretty much on a string in terms of where we are and where we need to be. It's not as much confusion as there was in the beginning of the season. And that's definitely a positive note going forward.
Thanks, Fred.
Thank you.
Sorry, Fred, we actually do have one more here for you, just one more. Nikki Reyes.
Hi, Fred. Sorry to sneak one in here. Just getting back to what Doug was saying about the meanness that you guys play with, where does that come from? Where does that mentality come from? Is it something you guys collectively talked about and said, this is what we're going to do, this is who we're going to be, or is it just who you guys are?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I think you got to look at guys, you know, character and their DNA. I think we have some really tough competitive guys. I think that's where it starts. And then that's something that we talked about from the first day of training camp. Coach Nurse wanted to stress that to us, that we need to be tough to play against. And we have all this size and athleticism and speed and length. And I think that we got to make people experience that. You know, we can't go out there without having a center or having all these untraditional positions and not cause havoc. I think that's what this lineup and this type of team is built for, is to fly around and be physical and impose your will. We've been crashing the glass a lot more this year. Stepping in there, I think we're getting better at guys stepping in, taking plays in the lane, whether it's charge. Chris has taken a couple of charges in the last couple of games. Pascal's had some unbelievable defensive plays at the rim. So just a will and a toughness and just a want to. And I think that's something that, you know, as the point guard or leader of the team, whatever, that's something that I'm proud of, that this team is kind of adapting to that identity.
Nice. Thanks, Fred. Congrats. Don't forget,
Thank
happy
you.
wife, happy life.
Yes, thank you.